What's going on, Switch Force? You're probably wondering what my ugly mug is doing on the screen. My name is Trip, and I'm here with Joseph.
What's up, guys? Also, I'm the ugly one. Don't take that away from me, Trip. Go ahead.
Nah, he's beautiful. Guys, let him know in the comment section down below how beautiful Joseph is. Anyway, Zach and Gabe are being really cool by letting us hop on here. We are from Team XP, Explode Gaming. So after this, if you don't hate everything that we said, please check us out. Go give our channel a like and a subscribe. We are going to dive into the 20 new details that we noticed about Pokémon Sword and Shield during Nintendo's Treehouse and the Nintendo Direct at E3. So let's get into it.
Yeah, very exciting stuff. So I think the first thing that we could touch up on is obviously they spent a huge amount of time on the wilderness, the wild area. So we're just going to kind of cover a bit of that. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is something that we kind of already knew, was kind of alluded to, but now we know for sure is that the items and the Pokemon that are appearing, the weather, everything is going to constantly change. This automatically means the wild area is going to be way more interesting because it gives us a reason to come back, honestly, multiple times, which it looks like we're probably going to be doing for quite some time anyway.
And we know that it connects multiple towns now, so it's not just one area. You're gonna go to Cyber City or Pluton City. I'm just making up cities. Sorry, guys. Let us know better city names in the comments. But either way, this wild area is gonna connect it all, which is really cool. So we know it's gonna change. Again, like Joseph said, whether it's winter or summer or a sandstorm, that's gonna change which Pokemon are there, and different items are gonna constantly be appearing, so you'll want to revisit it and get new cool things. So number 2, and this is the one I am most excited for, symbol Pokemon and random encounters. They called them symbol Pokemon. So the Pokemon from Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, the walking around, you get to see them in the wild, that's going to return. But also, random encounters from past games is also going to return. You're going to get that exclamation point, and you're going to have a random encounter, which is really fun, because it means not every single Pokemon is going to be a given. You're going to be surprised by what you find. Also, we just mentioned Pokemon Let's Go. You guys might notice that in the background we have some Pokemon Let's Go footage going, and that is only because we cannot play any Sword and Shield demos. We can't play any trailers, any concept from that, just because Nintendo will immediately pull this video down. So stick with us. We know that's not the game. We're sorry, guys, but the directs are up. Go watch the Treehouse after this. Go watch the Sword and Shield direct. There is so much cool footage for you guys to check out. But next, I think we're gonna get into number 3, and this one, Joseph, you were pretty stoked for the encounter whistle.
Yeah, so I think what's really awesome about this new feature is it's something that I kind of thought they would have to introduce, because again, building off of Pokemon Let's Go, honestly, if there was one thing that I think everyone could agree was an awesome feature, it was the fact that, hey, Pokemon are roaming around. And even though we did kind of take that next step to seeing them on the map and being able to approach them, this new feature is going to take that to, again, another level, which is awesome. So the whistle feature, the way they explained it, is essentially the player is going to be able to whistle. I know, who would have thought? But what makes this really cool is that each Pokemon is going to actually react differently to it. So, for instance, a Wingull might hear you whistle, and it'll get a little bit curious. So it'll just kind of stop in its tracks and look at you. Whereas a Machop or a Machamp or Machoke, all of them, may get very angry at you for whistling at it because it don't like that. It's not going to put up with that.
And it's suddenly going to charge right at you like a bull.
Just right at you, exactly. And then there are some Pokemon that, hey, let's say you see a Butterfree flying up high and you're like, I want to get that. Whistle at it, because that works for butterflies apparently. So this new feature is definitely cool.
That was actually one of my favorite parts of the Treehouse. We saw these different planes where instead of Butterfree just sitting down on ground level, he was actually up in the sky, and that was so cool. It suddenly just adds to the realism, and now you can suddenly whistle and bring that Butterfree down to you. It might be a little scary as it's approaching you, kind of like a Tauros or like the Machop, but still very cool, and I love that just immersion, that extra level. And speaking of levels, this is really cool, guys. There are going to be varying levels of Pokemon in the wild. During the Treehouse, we saw them encounter a Machoke who was level 28, I believe, whereas everything else they were encountering was closer to the level 4, level 10, etc., somewhere in there. And they immediately got poor little Score Bunny fainted during the direct. because it was not ready to face that Machoke. And I think that's very exciting. It means that we could suddenly encounter a level 40 Pokemon or a level 50, and we're not ready for it. So we're going to have to return to that section of the game later on, which opens up a whole new can of worms, a whole can of possibilities. Does that mean that other towns are going to be accessible even early on in the game without having to use, HMs? I don't know. That's crazy. That means you could potentially go and fight the psychic gym leader before you even face off against the first gym leader. But you probably don't want to do that because they're probably level 55 and you are just a lowly level 5. So be careful, guys.
I think this definitely opens up a lot. It literally opens up the world, because knowing that the wild area does connect all these towns, some areas you're going to not want to go to because you're not going to want your little score bunny to get absolutely choked out. So another cool thing that we saw in the Wildlands, which they don't actually kind of bring up, but you can see them, is NPCs will be there. Now, this is weird for multiple reasons, and I think it was a point that I wanted to bring up just because in Pokemon, obviously, trainer battles are abundant. It's one of the main ways to kind of get into battles. It's the only way to get into battles with people. So obviously they were returning. But what was weird is that now with the wild being accessible, it's not a given path. They can't just put trainers in our way. We could now walk around them. So I was wondering if they were even going to be there, but in the treehouse footage, we did indeed confirm that there are NPCs lying around, which again, you can say in hindsight, oh, obviously, but the way they're going to handle it might be different. Who knows? Maybe they'll give you side missions. You go up to one and they'll be like, hey, can you catch 5 Wooloos? And I'll give you insert any prize here. It's just really interesting to see them out in the wild, literally. So again, I don't know what your take on it, Trip, for them being there, but I think it's going to be deeper than just Pokemon battles, to be honest.
I love that concept. I really hope that I get a side mission to go catch some Pokemon or to venture to some other area of the wilds and do something. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities with that, and I'm really interested to see if they deliver on that. And if we're going to be venturing around the wilds going to who knows where, we're going to need some quick access, some quick ways to get there, which brings us to number 6, and that is the Rotom Bicycle. Okay, so it is a Rotom bicycle, and they showed us in the treehouse that it's quick access. You saw the player character immediately go from their normal clothes to this kind of Rotom bicycle outfit, this athletic uniform, and they're right on the bike and they're just cruising. Also, you mentioned, Joseph, that you saw the bike goes immediately up to the water and then it just gains the floaties right, and then it's immediately able to go across water.
So you don't have to go up to the water and be like, I want to access my floaties. You literally ride straight onto it with the bike, which is awesome. I think it's something that everybody wanted. It's going to reduce that, those seconds of seeing your Lapras come up, do its cry, and then now you have to jump on it. Straight to go. Rotom is totally a bro for that. And you get that fit. That outfit looked fire. Fight me.
Another cool feature is area titles, number 7. So when you switch areas, we saw this pop up on the bottom right corner where it said what the new area was. And there was no load screens, which is important. So that means there's different areas of the wild and they all have their own probably specific mechanics.
Like you said, there are now titles. Now, obviously, we did know that in the old Pokemon games, if you walked in a Diglett cave, it's going to tell you that whatever, that was always there. But now it seems like it's a lot more streamlined. So if I'm riding in the wild on my bike and I enter a new area, it seems that the weather changes, the biome changes a little bit, and there's new Pokemon there. And it'll pop up on the bottom right. I think if I'm on my camera, I don't know if that's my right, so that's weird. But on the bottom right, it will actually show you the name of it, and it'll show you where you are. So it'll be like Western Mountain, Wildlands, or the Wild, things like that. Now, I wonder if this is going to extend to towns. So if I'm inside of a city, will it be like City Square, and then underneath it, it'll say the name of the town? Again, very slight things, but this is all quality of life for the game, and I think it's just a really cool thing to add. And another really cool quality of life thing to add are the stamps. So the new stamp system, essentially the way it works is when you're in the wild, you can encounter friends. So as long as you're connected to Nintendo Online, you will be able to run into random people as well as your friends. And what the stamp system allows you to do is, because obviously Nintendo has to lack voice chat, they give you the system to be able to talk to each other. So if you catch something, it'll pop up the little stamp telling your friends and the people around you that you caught it. If you want to trade with somebody, you could request a trade. If you want to do a raid, you can do that. It's just a really cool system, a cool workaround to basically be able to talk to these strangers as well as your friends. And I think the stamp system is something that we didn't think they were going to add, but seeing it in the game just makes it so much more immersive. I can be able to discuss things with these people. If I want to battle, I can battle. And that's just something really cool. And again, something I didn't know we needed until it was shown. So really glad that's in there.
And also, Joseph, you could go find me in the game. You know, you get to see my little alert. Zach wants to give you a pack of potatoes. Go and collect it, which we did see in the treehouse. Apparently, you can give like packs of potatoes. I don't know what that's gonna do. Maybe it's just a treat for your Pokemon, or maybe even for the trainer to eat. I don't know.
What's cool about that is, I don't know if you noticed, but it said they added it to the ingredients section of your bag. So are we gonna get all Breath of the Wild and start cooking? We know that we could camp. Are we gonna cook and camp? That's something that could be cool.
Let's do it. The closer and closer we can get to the anime where I'm cooking stuff like Brock and I'm laying down that sheet and I get to like maybe spend the night in the wilds.
Dude, I really hope that that's a thing.
I'm so hyped for that. So hyped for that. I'm also hyped for number 9, and that's the fact that Galvantula. Did I say that right? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Okay, Galvantula is in the game. Guys, by the way, I hate looking up the term Galvantula because it shows a bunch of actual spiders, actual yellow spiders, and I'm horrified of spiders. So I don't even like looking at the pictures, but I love Galvantula. He's one of my favorite Pokemon from Black and White, so I think it's really cool that he's in this game. I mean, he was in Sun and Moon as well, but it's cool to see him returning, and he looked really cool. We saw him walking around. They didn't go fight him in the treehouse direct, but we did get to see him, and he looked really, really cool. So I'm stoked for that. I was a little scared because again the thought of a spider scares me a little bit, but Galvantula is fine with me, so that was really cool. It's a minor detail, but hey, it's a new Pokemon. That's very exciting. Guys, as we're speaking, 2 new Pokemon were just revealed, so we gotta add this in. Yamper and Impidimp. Yamper appears to be a corgi Pokemon, while Impidimp is based on an imp. Apparently, Yamper is an electric type Pokemon who has a new ability called Ball Fetch, and as the description puts it, Ball Fetch allows the Pokemon to pick up the first Pokeball that fails to capture the wild Pokemon. This ability only works if Yamper is not holding any items. Impidimp is so cute. He's this little pink and purple imp dude, and he's dark and fairy type. Guys, look these guys up. We can't show any images right now, or else Nintendo might just pull us down. But please go check those guys out after. They look fantastic. Can't wait to see more on them. Number 10, those red beams of light that we've seen in the trailers now finally have a purpose. And we've learned that they are what's going to indicate where the Dynamax Pokemon are and where the raid battles will take place, which of course is going to bring us into our next bit of discussion here, and that is the raid battles themselves. Now we know that you have to participate with 3 other trainers online or local multiplayer to be able to fight these Dynamax Pokemon, and we now know, feature number 11, that only 1 Pokemon per player will be able to fight the Dynamax Pokemon, which is pretty cool. I was a little worried that if I could access all 4 of my Pokemon, or all 6, or however many they're giving us, that might make things a little too easy. So I'm really happy that it's only 1 Pokemon. You pick the one you want to battle with, and then it's you and 3 other trainers going up against this mighty behemoth of a Pokemon, which again is just bringing us closer and closer to that level of anime where, you know, in the movies we get to see them fight off against Groudon and Kyogre and Ho-Oh and just these big giant Pokemon, and I think they're finally giving us that experience in the game, which is really cool.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, as you said, you know, if we're able to bring our whole team in, we're going to wipe the floor with these things. So I am glad that they did the 1 Pokemon rule. And another thing that they added is the Dynamaxed Pokemon actually can attack more than once. So this is going to be the 12th thing that we're going to discuss. It looks like this thing, they fought a Steelix in the Treehouse gameplay. It looks like it could just dish out attacks at random. So you really need to be on your toes on, like, hey, if you think that you guys are just wiping the floor with this thing, if it decides to just suddenly attack all 4 of you, it can do so. It's all random, and it's going to decide what it wants to do. And it could also throw up defensive moves, like if it wants to do Reflect or Light Screen, it has the ability to do that as well. So I think being able to cooperate with your team is going to be pretty much the most essential thing. You're going to need to be able to kill this thing fast before it gains any amount of momentum to be able to take you out.
Yeah, based on what Joseph said, like we saw in the treehouse, it was using multiple moves. It wasn't just you use a move and then it uses 1 move. A couple times it got to use 2 or 3 moves before you got to have an attack again. And then once it reached about half life, it used this special barrier that defended it from damage for like a short time, which means that someone used a solar beam and then suddenly Steelix just wasn't affected by it. So there are going to be a lot of surprises from the Dynamax Pokemon. They're not going to be easy to take down. So like Joseph said, you were going to need to be a little smart with this, which brings us to number 13, and that's that one player at a time can use Dynamax. So you are going to want to work together, and you're going to want to choose the best point in the battle to do this. So it's going to swap between players. One player will get the ability to use Dynamax, and they can choose to either not use it or to use it, and then it might swap to the next player or to a different player. It seems like it might be random, hard to say for sure yet, but that's pretty cool. So it's not like you all have the ability at one time to use Dynamax. Might be a little bit of a bummer if you're playing with online people that you don't know, and then they suddenly get the ability to use Dynamax in the very beginning, and you're like, I wanted to save that for the end of the battle. So we'll see how that plays out, but still a very interesting feature, and good to note, you won't all be able to Dynamax, just one of you at a time and one per battle.
Yeah, and I think that extends the strategy that goes into it. And even more so, if you guys didn't think Dynamax was going to be a tough enough challenge, they actually have conditions. Now, this isn't something that they brought full attention to in the Treehouse gameplay, but if you notice that when they're in the loading screen basically getting ready to fight the Steelits, on the bottom left you actually see a conditions. This time it was obviously if all 4 Pokemon faint, you lose, but also it said if it takes more than 10 turns, you lose. This is very interesting, because does that mean that every raid battle is going to have its own conditions? Like, what if one is like, hey, beat this in this amount of turns, or hey, beat this in this amount of time, hey, beat this and you have to perform a super effective move. You know, things like that really are going to open up to how these battles are going to play out, and I think adds a whole nother layer of difficulty to Dynamaxing as a whole, which is just really cool. I think these raid battles are getting more and more deep in terms of mechanics, and that's going to be fun, honestly.
We were worried that only one of you was going to be able to catch the Dynamax Pokemon, and that has now been done away with, which brings us to number 15. All players will get the chance to catch the Dynamax Pokemon. Now, it's important that we reference chance, because it does not mean you will catch it. Just beating it doesn't suddenly mean you catch it. You are still going to have to access a Pokeball, which we did see. You get to pull right from your bag. You can choose basically either a normal Pokeball or a Great Ball or an Ultra Ball, etc., whatever ones they give us in the game. Maybe some new ones will be seen as well. And then it suddenly emerges and it just grows way big so that it can catch this Dynamax ginormous Pokemon. So it grows to this massive size, and then, you know, it's going to play out pretty much like we've seen in other games where you might catch it, you might not. But that brings us to number 16. Even if you don't catch the Pokemon, you will still get other rewards. Now, they didn't say what these are, but Joseph, can we speculate? What kind of other rewards do you think we're going to get for beating the Pokemon but not capturing it?
Yeah, so I think a fair one and an easy one to go off of is you're definitely getting experience.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are definitely 100% going to get experience for the battle that you partook in. But what's really weird is, again, that they did mention that there are multiple rewards. So does that mean that we might get more sack of potatoes? Who knows? Are we going to get maybe things that, like, actual held items that are coming back? So let's say I didn't get the Steelits, am I going to get, like, maybe it was holding an Oran Berry? Like, is it going to be a cool reward that is worth it? I think it's probably going to be something leaning in that direction, where it's going to be something useful. Maybe it's more ingredients. Maybe there's a whole new type of item that we haven't seen yet that you will be getting. Maybe you get money. You know, there's so much that you can possibly get.
Now we're going to bring up one that is a little more disconcerting. Number 17, Dynamax replacing Mega Evolutions and Z moves. Now, before you guys get too excited or too angry, we don't know for a fact if that's what it is. It might just have been the dialogue they used, or the maybe misinterpretation. It might have just been a miscommunication error. But they did specifically say Dynamax would be replacing Mega Evolutions and Z moves. Now, we have not really seen them get rid of a battle mechanic once it's been introduced. I mean, we got Mega Evolutions even with Z moves in Pokemon Sun and Moon, so we were kind of hoping and just expecting Z moves and Mega Evolutions to still be a part of this game, even though there's Dynamaxing. What do you think about that, Joseph?
So I just want to bring to the fact, again, that they did say replacing. That was their exact wording on that. So that's kind of worrisome, but if they are getting rid of Megas and Z moves, it kind of made sense, because I guess they can't keep stacking battle mechanics on top of each other. There is going to be a point where it is just too much. I just didn't think we would see it so soon, especially because a lot of people love Megas. And what are we going to do with, hey, like, what if Mega Blaziken was my favorite Pokemon design? Now that's just, it doesn't exist in the universe anymore. It's just a very strange thing to take out. Hopefully it is just them kind of translating wrong. Maybe it was just a weird usage of words. But I think there is a huge possibility that we may be looking at those battle mechanics no longer being a thing. And if that is the case, is this going to turn a lot of people off to the game?
I mean, that's a really interesting question. I'm hoping it's just miscommunication, but I mean, if they specifically took time to say that, maybe they really are replacing it. They're getting rid of Z moves and Mega Evolutions. We do know that there's the Pokemon Bank coming, which means you can basically bring almost any Pokemon from old games as long as they fit in to this region's Pokemon into the Pokedex. So if Blaziken is an option, like, and you did have Mega Blaziken, yeah, it'd be pretty bizarre if you suddenly can't use that. But to be honest, and this might be heresy to some of you guys out there, I wouldn't really mind if they got rid of Mega Evolutions and Z moves for this game. I do think just adding this big new mechanic is already such a huge feature that I wouldn't mind if this kind of took over what that is. I'm not saying I don't love Mega Evolutions, but it also adds more incentive to go back and play those games because they have special features.
Yeah, and I think that's something Pokemon always does anyway. It's like, hey, if I want my Pokemon to follow me, I gotta play the 3 games that actually happens in. So it wouldn't be surprised, but one thing that we know for a fact that they are bringing back is held items and abilities. So obviously in Pokemon Let's Go, it was way more streamlined. They wanted it to be handed out to a casual audience, kind of get those Pokemon Go players onto the main line. So this was their in-between. And one of the things that they got rid of were held items and abilities. Now this was just bizarre on so many levels. The held items, I kind of understand. Fine, you don't want to give your Pikachu an air balloon so Earthquake doesn't hit it. That's okay. I don't expect casual players to even think to do that. That's cool. But as far as abilities, that's kind of something that's important to Pokemon. You know, obviously, if you have a Pokemon like, oh, hey, my Graveler has Sturdy, so it's not going to get one shot. That was what that Pokemon was. You know, it was a piece of what that Pokemon is. And to kind of take that out was just weird. And so I think a lot of people were worried, hey, what if Game Freak kind of liked that? What if they aren't going to bring these features back? But rest assured, it is back. So the system is in play. It's going to be deeper. You're going to be able to give your Pokemon all these items like an Oranberry or a Lumberry, for instance. And another thing returning from Pokemon Let's Go is the Pokeball Plus, but in a weird way. So Trip, I don't know if you want to talk about this because I heard what they said, but I don't really have any idea of what they can do. And you actually brought up an interesting point. So maybe you want to kind of take us away.
Well, they said that you won't be able to use the Pokeball Plus as a controller, but that you will still be able to get Pokemon from this game and walk about with them. And they specifically said, spend quality time with your Pokemon, and that might lead to something good. Something good might happen. In Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu and Eevee, it meant that your Pokemon were going to grow. They could gain experience and gain levels through traveling with them in the Pokeball Plus, which is just cute. I mean, it's adorable no matter how you slice it, and I cannot wait to have my little Sobble in my Pokeball Plus and walk around with him or her or whichever I get. I think that's very exciting. But I'm hoping, since they specifically mentioned something good, that that's going to add a new feature. Maybe it means that there's going to be specific evolutions that only happen in the Pokeball Plus. That would be really cool. Or this is just a me thing. I'm going to call this. I don't think it's going to happen, but this is what I want. I would really love to see that be the window into how you get a shiny Pokemon of a Pokemon you love. In the game so far, like, you can go out and you can find shiny Pokemon, but they might not have the stats, or they might not have the abilities or the moves that you want. And also, you've grown attached to other Pokemon before that. So I never super play with the shiny Pokemon. I love catching them. But it'd be really cool if Sobble ends up being my favorite Pokemon, or its evolution, whichever that is, and I want to make that Sobble shiny. So then maybe I put it in the Pokeball Plus, and if I spend enough time walking around with it, it'll get a shiny ability, or like it'll turn shiny. I just think that's so cool. I hope that happens. I don't think it's going to, but that's what I want.
You just mentioned special evolutions. Now, obviously today with this direct and with this I guess extended treehouse gameplay, we did see that Nessa is our new gym leader. So we got our water gym leader announced, which is awesome. But what's even cooler about this is this kind of alludes to something that has already been talked about on this channel, probably on every channel by this point, and that is the anonymous leak on 4chan that happened May 24th, which kind of gave away quite a bit of information, from new Pokemon evolutions to even Gigantamaxing. But I think with Nessa being confirmed to be a gym leader, which was again outlined in that leak, this just gives it so much more to stand on. This is looking more and more real by the second.
Yeah, I was a little worried that the leaks before might have just meant that someone had seen an early leak of the trailer of the direct for Pokemon Sword and Shield, and maybe they saw that so they could call out the Dynamaxing and they could call out other stuff, and they might have made up all the other features. But now the fact that we do see Nessa, which was specifically called out in their leak, and again, that was a long time before the direct, means that they really do have a lot of insider information. And if Nessa really is coming, and she is, then that means we could also see this Gigantamaxing. You might get to see Pikachu turn into the less slim version that we remember from old, which is really cute. And there was also mention that Farfetch'd was going to get an evolution, and we just talked about the fact that we might get special evolutions in the Pokeball Plus. Maybe that's how you get Farfetch'd to evolve. That would be really cool.
So all of that is what we learned in today's treehouse. Obviously, there's still so much more that we don't know. And for that info, you're going to have to stick with Switch Force. So make sure to subscribe if you aren't already. Talk about your favorite stuff in the comments that we just went over, or if there's anything that you saw that we didn't. Now, unfortunately, Trip and I must bid you adieu because we cannot stay on this channel. Our channel needs us. So if you want to come over, join Team XP. We're on Explode Gaming. I'm sure a link will be in the description.
Guys, we also wanted to give a quick shout out. Thank you so much to Zach and Gabe for letting us be on the channel. Let us talk about one of our favorite games of all time, and that is Pokemon. So thank you so much for watching, and thanks for letting us take up your time. Zach and Gabe obviously will be back in the next video. And this is something we've always wanted to say.
Switch Force out.